For decades, archaeologists said humans reached Australia 65,000 years ago. Geneticists disagreed, 50,000 years at most. Both had the evidence to prove it. Then ancient DNA entered the picture, and what it revealed about the first Australians changes everything. Madjedbebe, a rock shelter in Arnhem Land, holds the oldest evidence for human life in Australia. Excavations led by archaeologist Chris Clarkson unearthed a deep layer of sediment packed with stone tools, grinding stones, and ochre. To pinpoint when people first arrived, researchers turned to a dating technique called optically stimulated luminescence, known as OSL. This method measures how long grains of sand have been buried away from sunlight, acting like a clock for ancient sediments. The results were striking. The very bottom layer, filled with unmistakable signs of human activity, dates back around 65,000 years. This number is not a rough guess. Over 30 OSL tests from different parts of the site all point to the same window of time. The tools and pigments found there show that the earliest Australians were already adapting to their new land, grinding seeds and using ochre for decoration or ceremony. The evidence from Madjedbebe stands as a solid anchor for the timeline of human arrival on the continent. Genetic models once told a different story. For years, scientists working with DNA from living Australians calculated a much later arrival, somewhere between 45,000 and 50,000 years ago. These estimates came from coalescent models, which use patterns in modern genomes to rewind the clock and guess when populations split. But the models faced a major challenge. They relied on low-coverage data and reference panels that missed the full picture, especially the deep structure hidden in ancient populations. The result was a persistent gap between the archaeological record and genetic timelines, fueling arguments over which evidence to trust. The question hung in the air: was the archaeological dating too old? Or were the genetic methods missing something crucial? A new tool was about to change everything. Advances in extracting ancient DNA from the Petrous part of the skull promised a way to recover much older, higher-quality genetic material. For the first time, researchers could look directly into the genomes of people who lived tens of thousands of years ago, not just their descendants. The search for answers was about to enter a new era, one that could finally resolve the mystery of when the first Australians arrived. Stay with us as we reveal what ancient DNA has uncovered. The Petrous part of the skull, a dense bone that shields the inner ear, changed the game for ancient DNA research. Unlike other skeletal tissue, the Petrous can hold on to genetic material for tens of thousands of years, even in the heat and humidity of the tropics. When Eska Willersleif's team applied new extraction techniques to Petrous bones from Timor and New Guinea, the results were astonishing. Over 10 times more DNA recovered than from teeth or other bones. For the first time, scientists could sequence high-coverage genomes from individuals who lived more than 45,000 years ago. Advanced demographic models run on these genomes pointed to a population split from other non-African lineages around 65,000 years ago. This date landed squarely in line with the archaeological evidence from Madjedbebe. The two timelines, one written in stone and one in DNA, finally converged. The genetic story now confirmed that Aboriginal Australians are direct descendants of some of the earliest humans to reach Sahul, carrying an unbroken line stretching back at least 65,000 years. Ancient DNA offers glimpses into the past, but Australia's climate erases much of the record before it can be found. Even dense Petrous bones often yield little, leaving gaps where the oldest stories once were. contamination is a constant risk. Just one stray cell can blur results, so strict lab protocols are non-negotiable. But technical care alone is not enough. Professor Megan Davis, a leading figure in Indigenous law, insists that research must respect cultural protocols. The IATSIS guidelines require free, prior, and informed consent before any ancient remains are studied. Data sovereignty and benefit sharing are essential, not optional. Reaching Sahul was a test of skill and resolve. Even at the lowest sea levels, early voyagers faced open water up to 80 kilometers wide. Experiments show a bark canoe built with stone tools can cross in under 2 days. These journeys demanded planning, teamwork, and a deep knowledge of the sea. Deep within the DNA of Aboriginal Australians, scientists have found a pattern unlike anywhere else on Earth. When Pontus Skoglund and his team analyzed hundreds of genomes, they uncovered 4 major genetic clusters, each mapping onto a different region of the continent: the North, the Central Desert, the South, and Tasmania. These clusters are not recent. They reflect boundaries shaped by deserts, mountains, and coastlines that have separated populations for tens of thousands of years. Principal component analysis and FST values up to 0.015 reveal a level of differentiation more pronounced than in most of Europe or Asia. The genetic map of Australia is a mosaic, with diversity that runs deep, shaped by the land itself. Aboriginal Australian genomes carry traces of encounters with multiple ancient human groups. About 0.5% of their DNA comes from Neanderthals, a legacy shared with all non-African peoples. But there is also a much larger Denisovan component, roughly 5%, far higher than in most Asian populations. David Reich's team uncovered something stranger still, a segment of DNA around 1 to 2% that does not match Neanderthal or Denisovan references. This so-called ghost signal hints at interbreeding with a mysterious, still unidentified archaic human. No single model fits all the data, and the question of who these ancient ancestors were remains open. The genetic story of Australia's first peoples is more tangled and more intriguing than anyone expected. Genetic evidence rewrites our shared prehistory, showing Australia's first peoples shaped a continent in isolation for 65,000 years. Their story is still unfolding, and it belongs to all of us.